episode 113, first one in 2022. My name is Dave Hunt, and I'm joined by Michael Swick.
Feels weird doing this. Like, it's been... Well, I mean, we missed last week, but technically we haven't recorded in like 3 weeks to a month, it feels like.
Yeah.
So...
It's getting close. It was like December 18th or something like that. December 18th or December 20th.
So feels weird, but we're back.
Yeah. So we are Digital Days Gaming. We are normally a weekly podcast that posts every Thursday, 6 a.m. Eastern Time on podcast services. With it going into the new year, if you haven't reviewed us yet, maybe give it a check. People are doing a bunch of stuff, going to the gyms, or maybe not going to the gyms, but trying to work out more inside their own house, or just trying to hit some of their New Year's stuff, and maybe they need something to listen to, and they're skimming through reviews. Like, check it out, and to help share the show, help us grow, and maybe hit some of our 2022 goals that we don't really have any of, but still sounds cool to say goals.
Yeah. We'll make them up as we hit them. We'll be like, that was a goal.
Yeah.
We aimed for that.
Apologies, massive apologies for last week from mostly me. I, as many of you know that follow on social media, I did contract COVID. I believe it was Omicron. So it did, it didn't shut me down, but it did isolate me. And, I followed any of the basic things that are expected as my wife and family secluded me to my bedroom. And then Owen, my youngest son, ended up testing positive for it. And he's fine. No symptoms at all. So, and then the rest of my family that was in the house was negative. My son was traveling internationally for a study abroad program, and he tested positive while in Italy. So he got to hang out in a hotel in Italy for a couple more days. But
I hear that's the best part of Italy.
He's also exhibiting no symptoms, and he is en route back home today. So in terms of, it's been crazy since a couple days after Christmas until whatever it is now, January 10th, 11th, getting some reacquainted and adjusted and worrisome stuff out of the way. But here we are, and we're all safe and as healthy as we could be expected. So, but how did your little breather go? So.
It went well. I've been video gaming a lot, working way too damn much. I'm currently waiting some COVID test stuff, but other than that, I feel okay. Last week, it was like shortly after we decided not to record last week that I started to feel kind of sick and had some symptoms. But I seem to be over that as of right now. So I'm doing pretty well, given how bad last week was going. But yeah, I'm just kind of got to get back to doing the podcast thing. Because again, that was like the longest. We haven't gone on that long of a stretch without recording since we left our last podcast. So it was weird having that stretch amount of time where it's just like, I haven't heard Dave say Destiny in like 3 weeks. And it's just not right.
Yeah, and it is something we try to pride ourselves on, is giving you guys consistent content. But and we had already done one Patreon episode, and we didn't even talk about doing another one, to be honest. I don't think that it's interesting to say like consecutive weeks, but it is what it is. Like, and truth be told, y'all don't listen to podcasts during the holidays, so like, yeah, we don't.
We've noticed that the years doing this, it's like, so, you guys got that.
We love every single listener that we have, and everybody that downloads the show. I say it all the time. I appreciate you every minute of every day. But from December 23rd until like January 5th, like, your podcast app just doesn't work.
Yeah. So, I mean, and it's understandable. Mine doesn't work.
Yeah. Right. So it's, like you said, it's completely understandable. So each year we learn a little bit more, and maybe we'll do something different next year. But, I can see now why these bigger, podcasters and websites and companies take 2 or 3 week breaks, and they go in. Yeah, obviously it's important to spend time with your family. That's the most, family, friends, or whatever you do during the holidays. That's the most important thing. And podcasting or entertainment of not going to work, not commuting, or whatever you do or don't do, is definitely not happening from the week of Christmas through the week of New Year's, obviously. So it is completely understandable, and it is what it is. So we appreciate you if you've returned, and if you're the first time here, we appreciate you even more. So, all right. So that's enough rambling. We're going to get into the news.
Yeah. There's some interesting news. Nothing crazy because the video game industry is just coming out of their slumber. We did have CES last week, so we got a couple things from that to talk about. But the first bit of news is the ESA have announced that the E3 2022 that they were hoping to have will not be happening. It will not be happening in person. They didn't outright say they were going to have a virtual event, but they did say they'll have some news soon. Jeff Keighley, being Jeff Keighley, immediately announced the return of Summer Game Fest as soon as he heard this news happening. So we'll definitely get some video game stuff this summer from at least Jeff Keighley. The ESA, there's been a lot of different reports saying like they might not do anything at all this year because last year's virtual event didn't really go too well. At least from an industry standpoint, it definitely didn't go too well. I remember being on that virtual website or, their virtual E3 website and being like, what the hell? This isn't anything. And I remember me and Dave like scrambling to make sure we like registered for it and all that stuff. And there was really nothing for us to do during that.
It just got us some more Kickstarter emails. That's all it got us.
Yeah, that's all it got us. It was just so many more Kickstarter emails.
Yeah.
So the virtual event is still a possibility, though I feel like they would have announced they were going to do something when they announced they weren't doing an in-person one. So who knows what exactly that's going to be.
The problem that they're running into is that whatever they could provide, any developer or publisher can do themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the biggest problem. Whether you think E3 is dead or don't think E3 is dead, or the avenue of any of that is irrelevant to this conversation. Like, I don't think that E3 is dead. I think that it's probably dead at the LA Convention Center. It might be somewhere else, whether it's like Vegas, New Orleans, Chicago. I don't know. Like, in terms of like, do I think it's going to be in LA again? Probably not. Just because of what's going on and the scope of what E3 is. But I've said it 100 times and I'll say it again. Like, you can't replace excitement from physical hands-on playing of a game. And you can't do that right now. So that therefore that's what's causing this to happen more rapidly. But any developer can turn on their Twitch or their YouTube channels that they have or make them and say, hey, here's our new trailer. Here's our lead developer on it talking about the game, and here's what we're doing. Whether they do that with Keighley because he has his own personal hype machines for them, that's better than whatever E3 can or can't do at this point in time. That's fine. But you will not replace a somewhat of a convention style function for games.
You look at like CES was in person last week, but it wasn't at full capacity. It wasn't the full blown experience. And I think it's part of the reason we're not really hearing much out of CES. Like, we usually hear every website talking about CES, but a lot of people just didn't send reporters to CES and companies didn't go. So they're not going to recapture that excitement until they can go full blown. So I can see the ESA being like, you know what, let's not even do a half year, or like a half event. Let's just skip this year and then try in 2023 and hope it doesn't get worse. Currently GDC is supposed to be in person. We'll see what happens. It's in San Francisco.
Not in San Francisco. Nope.
Yeah. They haven't canceled it yet, but we'll see what happens with that. I think that's usually March, April. So really close to them. We'll probably find out what they're going to do for GDC within the next couple weeks. But like E3 can't afford to have another bad event in terms of if they want to remain like the event of the year for gaming. So I would almost feel like they should just take the year off because they can't put up that weak virtual event that they did last year. I know the streams were fine. They could reformat that a little bit, but it didn't feel as exciting. Summer Game Fest did a better job of scheduling. Summer Game Fest actually seems like it learns year to year what they're doing, but they only are doing one thing, and that's virtual, or that's just live streams, So the ESA...
Keighley's been doing that system, like when he was doing the stuff with YouTube or YouTube Gaming.
Yeah.
Like, sure, it was in person. Like it was in the Microsoft Theater or wherever it was. I don't remember where it was at E3. But that, when we were there, like what he was doing at E3 wasn't relevant to us at all.
Yeah.
why, like to the members that were attending E3, that wasn't relevant. To the people that couldn't attend E3, 100% relevant.
Yeah.
But and so that him doing something like that and just evolving that to the farther degree that he has is fine. But I'm telling you, like, I still feel like this, like, when, to your point, when it could be as close to normal, as close to 100% capacity as possible, which probably won't be until 2024 at the earliest. It will be back. Like, it is expensive, but we've heard it's expensive for the game developers. But at the same time, like, there is no other way to get thousands of press and thousands of influencers together to do something. Like, E3 will still carry clout and still carry weight when it can return, to your point, at normal max capacity.
Yeah. And I do see a world, like, because I don't think we're ever going to get fully past, like, COVID. It's not going to magically go away within the next couple years. I can see E3 at least scaling down towards, like, it's no longer a public event. It's just the old school media event that it was, because that still was able to entertain a bunch of people. And there's going to be a lot of people interested in E3 if it's an in-person event, even if it's not to the public, just so they can get the hands-on stuff. Because there's so many games that, like, come out, or like they're like, there's so many, like, games, like, you look at the Guerrilla Collective, all those indie games. There was like 3 hours
you would
worth
have
of indie
you would have
games.
played
a good chunk of those.
You would have played them, and you would have got to sit next to the dev and talk to him about it, and see a passion, like, or like, I've been racking my brain lately, like, and it's a memory that's jumping in my head right now. When I walked out of playing Darksiders Genesis, you're like, wow, you could tell just by looking at my face, like, oh, hey, Dave had a good time. Yeah, like, he enjoyed. I
can't think of anything that I saw in the Guerrilla Collective last year. Like,
exactly.
That's
but I'm still remembering Darksiders time that I played Darksiders Genesis and enjoyed it, even though the final product wasn't as fun. What I saw at that moment in time, I was like, okay, that's cool. And it got an award and it got all that stuff. Like, that will never go away. Yeah. The passion or the excitement from somebody, like I had it, like, as an example with Immortals, but I wasn't playing with somebody. I didn't have PR or a dev or an interview to kind of get me even more interested about it. I didn't get to do as due diligent of a job as I wanted to finding out about the game, because I was on a virtual event in a Discord server with another 50 or 60 other people that I couldn't see or
that
talk to or read off of.
That felt more time pressure than an actual E3 event. Because E3 is usually you have 20 minutes, get what you want, and then there's like an excitement level to where you're like going back and forth with the developer for a little bit, and then shooting the shit. When it was like the virtual, the in-home demos that we've done the last, like, 2 years, it feels like, okay, you have me until 3, and then you just kind of burn through it, and there's, like, a lot of dead air, which is awkward as opposed to being in front of someone. Though it's
100 little things. You're not getting up to get a drink and talking to somebody else. You're not getting up to get some food really quick, and them, somebody, like, you don't see a guy from the dev team, like, peeking over the shoulder and going, hey, why did you do that? Which used to happen to you and I all the time. Like, what made you go that way?
Or how did you break that? Which I got often.
So and then those things are gone.
Or just, like, the thing that, like, we would bump into the same people. We would run into, like, Chandler, Khalif, and we would then, after the meeting, talk on our way to the other meeting and get, like, more hype about what we just saw. And I think that translates into, like, the influencer stuff, like the YouTubers that were at the E3s and stuff like that had a level of excitement that they don't really have, because they do their reaction video to the streams and then they're done with it, as opposed to when they're at the event, they're all excited. So E3 definitely needs to be back to
it's an energy thing. Yeah. Like, you've, like, going to a sporting event where, like, something cool happens, like, there's a ton of energy in the building, even if it's happening against your team. Like, if Michael goes to a baseball game and he's playing against the Texas Rangers and the Rangers pitcher is pitching a no-hitter, like, even as a White Sox fan, you start to cheer for what you might see.
Nah, fuck that. But yeah, I see your point. But I'm not. Yeah, I'm loyal. But
but you're sitting at a game and you'd like, there's like, hey, this is like the possibility of a no hitter. Like, this is kind of cool. You know.
No, I totally get that.
And that will be that. I genuinely, deep in my heart, hope that that's back. Will it be through E3? I don't know. I think so, because I think the name still carries clout. Do I think it'll be at LA Convention Center? No.
And it's funny, it's like, I think Jeff Keighley kind of held like a judge's week like for Summer Game Fest at one point last year.
Yep.
So like I have a feeling if E3 does come back, say next year, it's going to be like a more low key event. Or I could see Summer Game Fest just getting away to do like a media only event as well. Which means me and Dave need to get our YouTuber on so we can get invited to one of these. But
subscribe to the channel, please.
Subscribe to the channel, and then I might remember to upload videos and not let them die into the Twitch archives like episode 112 did. But yeah, that is the E3 stuff we have for right now. CES, as I mentioned earlier, is happening or happened last week. It was kind of a very low-key event. We had PlayStation VR 2 details come out of it. Sony did like a little bit of a presentation. The headset will be a 4K HDR headset, 110-degree field of view, OLED display with 90 Hz to 120 Hz refresh rates. It does feature inside-out tracking, which I believe they previously announced when they talked about the controllers. So no need for external cameras. They are touting sense tracking, which is eye tracking, headset feedback, which would be haptic feedback. There's like a motor in the headset to rumble for you. 3D audio, and of course the new controllers have haptic feedback, and they're more modern looking, so you're not walking around with the PlayStation Move bullshit anymore. They did talk about how it's just going to have one single connection to the PS5, so you no longer are going to have a bunch of different cables hanging off your headset or connecting to your system. And the big thing that they announced game-wise was their newly acquired studio, Firesprite, are working on a Horizon game called Call of the Mountain, exclusively for the VR2 headset. Dave. A lot of stuff in here. Oh, look, before Dave talks, I know what Dave's going to say. They didn't mention a price. The current,
because this sounds expensive as shit.
So the current thing that I saw, a lot of people are speculating it is going to be in the $399 to $499 price range, is what people are thinking. Which is realistically, that's only $100 more than the original headset was, because I believe the original headset was $300.
$299.
Yeah. So we're talking about $100 more if it is $399 and not $499.
Yeah.
So I feel like that isn't too unreasonable for what they're selling and what the competition sells VR headset for. But Dave, take it away.
The competition sells VR headsets for that price, and you don't need another console. You don't need to have the console.
You need a PC though for
I agree,
yeah.
But not the Oculus thingy. Like the Oculus thingy is like freestanding, isn't it? It's like $300 and it just does its own thing. Like it's a mobile VR essentially.
Yeah.
Oculus 2, Oculus Quest, or whatever the hell it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, all right, here's the deal. I love VR. Like, I've enjoyed plenty of games in VR, although I haven't hooked it up in a long time, and I don't even have the attachment to hook it to my PS5.
Ah, shit, I forgot we need that. I should order that.
Yeah, same. But the concern is, what's the last VR game that came out?
It was a down year for VR or for VR in general?
For PS VR.
Oh, I have no fucking idea.
Right.
Yeah.
So the support is a little concerning to me. This sounds cool. Gorilla and Firesprite doing something sounds cool. The fact that like what I might put on my face is better than what I watch on television is a better refresh rate than what I see on my TV is a little concerning to me for the price. And then I need to know more about like the library and backwards compatibility. I know this was like their formal announcement of like, and obviously at CES this is where you do this. And I get that if anybody thinks that this is coming out this holiday, you're high.
No, I think this is at the earliest a holiday 2023 thing because of the pandemic.
Yeah. And it sounds very expensive. Like it sounds very expensive. Yeah. So, the tech sounds super interesting to me. And I've seen rumblings and other like stories about Half-Life 2, like possibly coming to VR 2, or if I'm saying Half-Life Alex, yeah, Abyss, yeah. Alex, yeah. Something from Valve. So like that stuff sounds really cool.
But at that point, Half-Life Alex will be 3 years old. So like,
I know. So, yeah. But yeah, like they've got some more. They've left me with more questions than excitement is what they've left me with, and maybe that's what they wanted to do.
Well, but yeah, I mean, continue. Sorry.
No, at this point, it is what it is. Like I don't. if they have hardware problems right now with PS5, they're gonna have hardware problems with VR too.
Yeah, that's why I almost feel like it was kind of. I think they were in like a E3 situation with CES where Sony can't lose their spot at CES, so they had to do something. Which is why they talked about Twisted Metal, the TV show, in their presentation, which is just like them being like, yeah, we really have like nothing to talk about today, but we don't want to lose this spot. So I think this announcement is a little too early because I don't expect this until 2023, which could end up benefiting them in terms of getting the price down on certain aspects of this machine.
Sure.
And also the fact that they already have their new studio Fire Sprite working on like the big marquee thing for this, or ideally you would imagine it's the marquee game for the VR headset, is a good sign. And it also means if it isn't until 2023, 2024, the other studios they acquired will also have time to work on games for this, and we will have like a really good first party lineup of games, hopefully launch or
well, that's going to be what separates this from what makes it worth the price, is that if there's only certain things that Sony can produce that you can get on it.
Yeah,
because like at this point in time, and again, I don't 100% know the answer for it, but I think almost everything that's available on any other PC VR platform is available on that Oculus Quest. And maybe not at the high fidelity, but it's available.
Yeah, for the most part, though, you do kind of... There's weird shit you have to do to get it to work with the Vive and the Oculus Quest stuff. So there are, like, roadblocks that are easily knocked over because it's pretty open, or you can make it open. Though I think the Quest now locks you into a Facebook account or a Meta account.
I don't think it does that anymore. But
No, they added it. So. They said they weren't going to do it, then they did it. And then I don't know if they went back again on that. Yeah. But yeah, I don't think it would be... I imagine this would be in that like $400 price range. They might be able to even get it down since there's less bullshit that they have to sell with it. They don't have to sell a camera with it. They don't have to sell a breakout box, as far as I know.
Right.
With it. So there's stuff that they can like throw away that they don't have to worry about, because I have mine like in its box.
Yeah, but now it has to come with, like, now the controllers have to come with it. So which is they're made for it. I get it, and they're not trying to like essentially retrofit like they did with the Move controllers. Like, hey, we have to have some kind of motion thing. All right, let's just use these instead. Like, now it won't be like, okay, this works with the DualShock and motion and Move, and then this one only works with Move. This one only works with the DualShock. Like, all that's gone. Like, it'll be these controllers or nothing, which is good. But it also, like, those controllers probably have 50% of the tech that VR1 had in it.
Well, so. but imagine like $299 was for the bundle that didn't come with any controllers for PSVR 1. You wanted the controllers, it was like an extra $100 to make sure you had like all the accessories for it.
Yeah, but if a DualSense costs $70, how much is a VR DualSense going to cost?
Well, I think, but what I'm saying with these are just going to come with the headset, so you're not going to be buying multiple of these controllers because there's no reason to buy multiple.
Right. And to your point, like, is if they can have a substantial library, then they'll take hey, you need to take a loss on hardware to make money on software, but you got to have the software.
Yeah.
So
well, and that's why I think they've been ramping up on like some of the smaller studios they've been acquiring, because they're not going to put a Naughty Dog on a VR game, so that they acquired like 6 studios last year, and they're all like, at least half of them have VR experience, and the other half are for smaller.
And then
games.
Insomniac has a ton of it too. Like, this is part of, like, the Insomniac thing was accelerated because they were doing some really cool stuff on Quest, or they had some cool devs going with Quest, to where like Sony's like, okay, well, this has got to stop.
So that is the VR stuff. I'm assuming we'll probably hear more. I wouldn't be surprised because they announced it here, and if GDC does happen, that's usually where Sony will then start pitching to developers like, hey, dev kits will be out soon. We'll plan to launch in 2023, so we might hear more about that if GDC happens in March or April or whenever it is. The other thing, as mentioned before, Twisted Metal, the TV show, was the thing that they were talking about. Shortly after this was announced, Video Games Chronicles, I believe, were the website that came out and said that the Twisted Metal game that's supposed to tie in with the TV show was originally being developed by Lucid Games, the Destruction All-Stars team, and that is no longer the case. Sony has taken that development from that studio and have moved it to their internal studio, one of their European studios, which kind of makes sense that they would do that. Especially, I think I forget which European studio that they recently acquired is mostly like Wipeout developers. That actually might be Fire Sprite, but so
yeah, I just like I don't care.
Yeah, no, I
just don't care.
Yeah, I just put this in here just because it's interesting to, in terms of like them trying to push this Twisted Metal thing, like as a TV show, which I still don't know how that's gonna work.
Maybe they make Media Molecule release a game.
No, I don't think that's ever going to happen. I think Media Molecule. I hope Media. You hate Media Molecule, I know. So,
I don't hate them. I just don't like that they released Drawing Simulator.
You just suck at their games. You're just like, I want to play a thing. Don't make me make the thing. I don't have time to make the thing that I want to play. But yeah, Lucid Games apparently is no longer working on this. And
yeah, you're right. I don't want to do their job for them and then enjoy their job.
Yeah. So we were talking about Lucid Games when we first talked about Twisted Metal being worked on by them, as maybe this would be Lucid Games' like tryout for PlayStation.
Yeah. Well, but, I don't think they made it past the first day one cuts.
No, exactly. Because Destruction All Stars definitely wasn't doing it, and then them getting Twisted Metal sounded like, oh, maybe they're gonna. This is their tryout. If they do this, they'll be acquired.
Well,
like
maybe they saw something. They saw potential in All Stars or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, let's try it with a more formidable IP. And like, oh, okay, no, it's the same problem.
Yeah, it's funny. David Jaffe, who we're going to talk about in the next story, was talking about this apparently, and he even was like, I have no idea what you do with Twisted Metal, which is, I think, the thing I've been saying for like since the last time they tried to reboot Twisted Metal.
I just think it's a genre of video game that
doesn't work.
Not relevant.
Yeah,
it does. Yeah, it just doesn't. It's not. No, sorry. It's just,
I still don't know why they're making this a
it.
TV show. Like, I still don't understand why they're doing that. I don't even think Anthony Mackie is going to be able to make it work. But
yeah,
I don't know. It's bizarre. But let's move on to the last story. This is...
Well, hang on. Before you don't even have like what our favorite thing to talk about in here is. Did you see Rockstar? Take Two bought Zynga?
Oh, yeah. I meant to put that on there, but I ran time. So let me talk about that.
Yeah. So Take Two purchased Zynga for $12 billion.
Yes. Almost
billion
13.
with a B.
Yes. They were purchased by Take Two, so Rockstar's company, parent company. Yeah, I mean, is it? Okay.
Well, first of all, did you know that Zynga is still a thing?
Yes, because they are still.
I forgot about them.
Yeah, no.
But then when I looked into what they still have, I'm like, oh, okay, they just stopped. Like, you just didn't hear about the name Zynga as much as you heard about the games.
Yeah. So this, to me, like, people are like going crazy over the $12.7 billion, but they're a big mobile company, and we just don't give a shit about mobile games, but they make money.
No. Like the mobile platform is something that I don't get into. I've tried a couple times and I just don't get into it, but I understand how it works. Like I've seen my 6-year-old like, hey, look. Like, I've seen it. So like, it's fine. It's there. It's a thing. It's just like hunting for me. Like, okay, I understand what the concept is. It can stay over there. So like, it's and it makes a crap ton of money. The stuff that I saw probably sounds interesting. Like, in terms of how GTA as a name carries weight, you make some kind of mobile game that works on Apple and Android, and it's gonna print money.
No, and that's basically what the Take-Two president or CEO said is. Zynga knows how to make money in the mobile space, and they have franchises, and they just started to list off franchises: Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead Redemption, Borderlands, Civilization, Kerbal Space Program, and then stuff like Midnight Club. You know how many times you're on your mobile phone and you see shitty racing games on there?
Yep.
They have Midnight Club, which is like, I would be upset if Midnight Club comes back as a mobile game, but that's a big enough name that they'll probably trick me into downloading it.
I was gonna say that you'll get it once or twice. Like, Call of Duty Mobile is absurd. Like, how much money it does is absurd.
Yeah.
And then, before, 5 years ago, it really wasn't acceptable. Like, everybody's like, oh, these touch controls are good. Now you just hook a controller up to it. Now people are playing it on their iPad or their Surface.
But, like
they're not even playing it on their phone.
Zynga makes, like, the typical, like, basically casino games, on mobile that do really well. Imagine what one of their casino games can do if it was tied into Grand Theft Auto Online. And again, people are getting really tied into like how much it costs, like $13 billion, $12.7 billion. You always overpay for acquisitions. Like you never get them at actual value. You always have to overpay. But this is like one of those acquisitions that it just makes sense for Take-Two to do in terms of like, okay, Activision bought Keen. Was it Keen? What, like their mobile sector is like Keen Games or whatever like that, who make a bunch of different mobile games and stuff. And Activision makes a shit ton of their money from that acquisition, and they kind of just don't touch it. Like they bought them to just continue to make money for them. Kind of like how Microsoft bought Minecraft, where they bought Minecraft and let Minecraft just do Minecraft things, and it just makes the money.
You pay $13 billion in 2021, and you break even by 2027, and then it's all straight profit.
Yeah, and that's what this could do for them. But then they also have the library where they're like, oh, and then we can throw our stuff on top of theirs and then make that profit faster, or bring that return on investment faster. So this just makes sense. I mean, it just means we're going to get a bunch of fucking reskins, most likely at first, for a bunch of this stuff.
Well, I mean, at this point in time, could GTA 2 or 3 or the Top Town GTA could run on a phone? Yeah.
Well, no, so they're already on the phone. Like all of those Grand Theft Auto games that you just mentioned are on the phone and playable on at least on Android they are. So they're just going to have another revenue stream for them to then do whatever they want. And Take-Two is a company that kind of just relies on Grand Theft Auto and like Red Dead to make them money. Now have a third stream of money to like kind of solidify themselves. Did they overpay? Yes, you always overpay. Was Bethesda worth $7.5 billion? Probably not, but you have to overpay if you're going to acquire a company, especially if the company isn't looking to be acquired. Which, as far as I know, Zynga wasn't looking to be acquired, but Take-Two must have asked. Though there is a wrinkle. Zynga has, I guess, 45 days to see if they can get a better offer. And I only mention that is because Take-Two tried to buy Codemasters last year, and then they had time to find a better offer, and then EA took them. So I would assume no one's gonna. But that's why
I don't know who else would be able to pony up that kind of cash that quick.
Tencent,
or
but but this is why they overpay them and paid $13 billion for them, is because they're like, we want to make sure no one jumps in last second or in the next 45 days and outbids us. So they just went with the highest offer right away.
They went to sticker shock to keep the hopefully the shock keeps everybody else away.
Yeah. So they did that to hold on to this. So yeah, I guess we'll see Grand Theft Auto Farmville, because Farmville is still their biggest game, which is crazy because Farmville's been around forever. And
does Don Metric still run the company?
I was gonna try and look that up, but I didn't see if he did. Okay. No. He no longer. I think he stepped down in 2015. Yeah. But I'm sure he's still on the board and got paid hella amount of money for this. If they can bring, if we can get Chinatown Wars, Grand Theft Auto Chinatown Wars back as a mobile game, then I would say this is a great acquisition.
Can't they just release a game that's like, oh shit, here we go again?
They could do whatever they want with this. But if we can get Chinatown Wars as a mobile game, I would say I'm fine with this acquisition and Take-Two now being a mobile game company. Jesus, Zynga makes so much money. But okay, so last bit of news, unless you had any more about the
more
Zynga
money
purchase.
No, you're good.
Okay, so there's a bunch of Days Gone stuff. I put this on here just because it's just kind of funny how this all rolled out. So last week it was announced that Ghost of Tsushima sold over 8 million copies. And former director for Days Gone kind of took the Twitter to air some grievances, saying that Days Gone sold over 8 million copies and on Steam sold over 1 million copies, and it wasn't celebrated, and Sony looked down on the project and didn't appreciate what they had. Then a day or two passed, and he clarified that the 8 million copies sold was based off trophy data from a website. So he looked at how many people had acquired trophies and then assumed the game sold 8 million copies. He went on David Jaffe's stream to basically clarify a bunch of stuff and said he still stands by the 8 million, though he thinks it could be a little under or it could be way over. But he stands by the 8 million, which is just kind of hilarious that he based this off trophy data and then was just like refusing to back down or like did a half step. He went on to say that they did at Ben before he left. They wanted to do Days Gone 2. They pitched Days Gone 2 and it was rejected by Sony. Ben then also pitched Resistance as an open world and Sony also declined. So this just adds a little bit of context because last year we talked about how Sony Bend was basically turned into like an auxiliary studio.
Naughty Dog North.
Yeah, basically Naughty Dog North in terms of they had to help with the Last of Us remaster that's happening at Naughty Dog. And then eventually they were pulled off that and allowed to make their own IP. So a lot of stuff from this. I know this isn't your favorite thing to talk about sometimes, but this was pretty entertaining how this all rolled out last week.
Yeah, no. As it was going on, like I saw, like, hey, like it's like, hey, your sibling did this. Well, I can do that. I did that.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it was starting to seem like a little bit. The part that I think some people are forgetting in this equation, I don't have exact time frames in front of me or timetables in front of me, but Sucker Punch released Infamous Second Son at launch of the PS4. And then they released Ghost of Tsushima last year, so on the PS4. So I think that they released, and Second Son, did it have one of those standalone? It didn't have a First Light. Did it have First Light?
Yeah, that is First Light. First Light came after.
So
that.
it was So Second Son, First Light, and Ghost of Tsushima in the lifespan of the PS4.
Yeah.
Sony Bend, I believe, did not do anything on PS3.
No, the development cycle. No, well,
they did Uncharted Golden Abyss. I know that, and that was borderline launch for the Vita, and then they did Days Gone.
Hold on,
on the PS.
So they did 2011. They did Uncharted Golden Abyss, and then they did Uncharted Fight for Fortune, which I believe was another kind of Vita card game, in 2012. So there was a 7-year gap between the last thing they worked on and Days Gone.
And then when did Second Son come out?
That I'm pulling that up right now, but that's annoying because there's a movie called Sucker Punch.
So the time frame, like if it took you 8 years and you sold 8 million copies, cool, good for you. If it took you 4 years and you sold 8 million copies, awesome, good for you. Like in terms of time frame and then also like how much it costs. Like I don't know. Did Days Gone end up costing more than? I'm assuming Days Gone probably cost more than Ghost of Tsushima, just from a time frame standpoint.
Well, yeah, especially also if you account building an engine from the ground up, because they were working on Vita games before that, so they had to rebuild everything. Now, I don't know if it used a custom engine or not, but you have to build a structure,
I would assume that if you really like started ripping layers away of Ghost of Tsushima, you probably saw a lot of Infamous in there. Like in terms of like at its core of like how how the characters move. Like sure, it got improved, but the guy that's like working on movement of your characters is very similar to it's a third person action game.
Yeah, for timeline wise, so if we just go back to 2009 Infamous 1, 2011 Infamous 2, 2011 Infamous Festival of Blood, 2014 Second Son, 2014 First Light, 2020 Ghost of Tsushima. So they had a streak where they were releasing a game every 2 to 3 years, and then it took them 6 years from First Light.
Also
to
being
Ghost.
And also they were purchased by Sony during that time window as well, during that 11-year window.
Yeah,
because they were not owned by Sony when Infamous 1 came out.
2, I think. or
Right.
shortly after 1 they were acquired.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things going on there to where they were able to, just in terms of return on investment and productivity, Sucker Punch is a more viable studio. Like,
Yeah, and so what this ended up turning into is basically the director and I think Jaffe talked about how Sony cares about Metacritic too much. So even though Days Gone sold well, it didn't hit Metacritic like Ghost of Tsushima did in terms of critical
then
reviews.
they shouldn't have sent the review copy out in the state that they sent it out in, because your copy was pretty rough.
It was and that sucks because I like.
And at launch it was rough too.
Yeah, and it sucks because I like Days Gone. I think I ended up giving Days Gone like a 7, despite the issues, which just makes it more frustrating that if it didn't have issues, there's a chance I would have really liked Days Gone, and it would have been like a 9 or a 10 if it didn't have issues.
Well, it came out like around Easter time, I feel like, and then you started hearing it was one of the slower burn games. Like you heard about it in June and July. Like, hey, this is really fun. Like after they'd fixed some of the audio stuff, and then people, and then the a good thing and a bad thing about it is like it at the time some people maybe were realizing like, hey, I don't want a 25-hour, 30-hour campaign game, which is what Days Gone was, which it could have been to its detriment. And then people are,
it was way longer than that.
Right. But it's like, hey, it starts to get good after hour 15. And I'm like, I don't want to play that.
Yeah.
I want to play it now because I've heard some cool things about it, but I don't really think I have the time to invest to playing it right now.
Yeah.
Because of how long it is. And then to tie it to current events, something else that isn't on here. Dying Light came out and said, hey, $500 hours to complete the game.
But they've already walked back.
What the fuck? I know they have, but it's like, so it's kind of one of those things of like, just what people do or don't want. Like, it's so hard to tell. Like, they'll sit there and say that they don't want ABC, but then ABC sells well. Like, it's so hard to judge and to know. And I don't think that there's a formula for it. I think it's like, okay, you throw it on the wall, like, oh, that one's stuck. Okay, you throw another one on the wall. Oh, I can totally miss the wall. Like, it's too hard.
Well, but I think what ultimately like doomed Days Gone 2 happening is the long development cycle. Yes, they could have turned around a Days Gone 2 quicker, but the amount of time and money that went into the first Days Gone to get a mixed critical reception just doesn't jive with Sony. And then also the 8 million copies sold, that isn't verifiable because he's going off trophy data. It does make me a little annoyed that developers that work on the game do not have access to the information to how well their game sold, which is fucking insane to me.
Or he's under an NDA that he really can't say it, and he's really walking a fine line right now.
I don't think you would want to get yourself in trouble with that, because your NDA doesn't say... I guarantee there's an NDA that doesn't say, like, you can't talk about the exact number, but you can fuck around and throw random numbers out there.
Know.
So,
I know what you're saying.
So the idea that the developer doesn't know how much he's getting paid is just kind of... Or not paid. Doesn't know how much his game sold is kind of just fucking crazy to me.
Oh, I think that's what happens when your studio's owned by a publisher, though. Like, Sony's a publisher.
It's still crazy.
I get it. Yeah.
You think you would want to know, and it sold well because it charted in North America and in Europe on NPDs. So who knows how much it sold. This story did make me realize that there's a really low chance we're never going to get a Resistance thing, because like they went from like, we can't get Days Gone 2, let us do an open world Resistance game, and then they're like, no, which makes me think there's either two things. Sony is holding Resistance for Insomniac, but Insomniac's never going to get to it because they are...
Yeah, or they just don't care about Resistance anymore.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's because a couple things. Resistance didn't do well sales-wise. Like it like started high, and then the game's quality went higher, but the sales went lower. But also Resistance, I don't know if you remember, but Resistance kind of is why Insomniac broke up with Sony in the first place. So Insomniac went over to EA and Microsoft because Resistance 2 and Resistance 3 they felt like was just kind of thrown out to die. Like they didn't really market it that well. Sony didn't know what to do with it, but they still had them develop those games, and then they just kind of let it die. And also like some Ratchet & Clank games from that era, they let it die. So I wonder if Sony's in a spot where they're like, if we give Resistance to another studio and then back it with proper marketing and give it a proper push, we're going
to piss our best studio off more.
Yeah, are the people at Insomniac going to be like, huh, look what happens if you put some effort into marketing, you know? So I wonder if Sony's in a weird spot where they're like, okay, we'll hold Resistance for Insomniac.
I was gonna say Sean Layden. What's his name? Goes into Insomniac Studio and goes, "Hey, so we're thinking about having somebody else do Resistance." And Ted Price is like freaking out, and then what's his name? Jim Ryan. There we go.
Yeah.
Jim Ryan just holds up a sign that says Wolverine.
Yeah,
like, and then Ted Price is like, okay.
but I wonder if there's like some weird like politics in terms of Resistance, to where it's just like, okay, if we're gonna give Resistance another go, we're gonna let Insomniac do that, but Insomniac won't have time for several years because Spider-Man and Wolverine, or they're never gonna have time because they're forever gonna be working on Spider-Man, Wolverine.
We'll tell them they can do Resistance, but we're gonna give them some cooler stuff to make them forget about Resistance for a little while, and then they're gonna be like, after like 5 years, they're gonna be like, well, Resistance is like 20 years old, like it's done, like.
And then like Sony then can't give Resistance to another studio and then back it properly, because then that's gonna make Insomniac feel bad. Or if Sony sends Resistance out to die again, and then Insomniac's gonna be like, stop, he's already dead, like stop doing it. So it just made me realize Resistance, I hope I'm wrong, but it made me realize Resistance is never coming back. Like, Killzone has a better shot.
It's been over 10 years.
Yeah, I know. But it's an IP that the idea that like Days Gone didn't do well, unless their pitch just wasn't good. Unless the pitch for Resistance was just like not good. The idea that like Sony's just like, okay, here's an established IP, as established as you'd want to say, take it, make something out of it. Instead, Sony is just like, no, don't touch that IP. Go make a new IP again. Even though we just went through this over the course of like 6 years.
Yeah, we get another Infamous before we get another Resistance.
No, I definitely think that. Yeah, because I think we'll probably get another. I'm assuming that's what Sucker Punch is going to be working on next. I don't see them doing Ghost right away.
Or Infamous 1 gets like a huge remake.
Yeah, that would take a lot of work though. I don't know if it would be worth it.
Yeah, I don't know if they're trying to resurrect Cole as a character in the world, in the Sony's gaming genre or whatever. I think that you go and give one Demon Soul style treatment.
Yeah, unless we get an Infamous TV show, which I wouldn't be surprised at this point with like if Twisted Metal's getting a TV show. You're telling me
it'll be really like it'll be really interesting to see what is being done to the first Last of Us, because that will set a bar for what other remakes from Sony should be doing.
Yeah, no, it should. And then now set the bar of how long is it worth putting all this time into a Last of Us.
Because if you release a great Last of Us remake and then you do decide to do something with Resistance and it's not as good as that, like, you're already failing.
Yeah.
So
that's it for news.
All right. There's something delayed.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 16 got delayed half a year due to COVID, is what they're going with. That was supposed to release, I guess, spring, and now we'll just see the game this spring in terms of next time they're going to show gameplay or something like that. So I guess Final Fantasy 16 at the end of the year. I was kind of surprised it was coming out as fast as it was based on when they announced it to release. So this isn't too surprising that it's getting delayed half a year.
Yeah. So, all right, what we're playing and watching.
Oh, I put 15 in the notes. I'm at 16.
Well, that's why you get to read them.
Got my Roman numerals backwards.
So for me, obviously, I was in isolation. So I did. I tried to play a couple other new games, different games. I tried to play Death's Door. I did play Deep Rock Galactic, which is a free game on Plus this month, as well as it's been on Game Pass for a little while. That's a 4-player co-op. Gives you a little bit of a Borderlands vibe. It's really bad by yourself, like really bad. So that's, and a couple people that have a little farther than me told me, like, oh, find a weapon you like, and I'm like, okay, well, I can't even get to that point yet. Death's Door, I still need to get a little bit deeper into it, and there's just a couple other things. I had my symptoms were very, very mild. I've been way more sick than I ever was with COVID, but I did have a hard time focusing. So like if I would focus on playing a game, like I actually would like my eyes would start to water for like seven of the 8 or 9 days I was in isolation. So that did cause some issues. I did watch a ton of just crap. Like on Netflix, and other streaming services. Like I watched The Replacements again, which is the name of my fantasy football team, which I won the fantasy football thing on. So I watched them, just, I don't even know why. It's like, oh, I'll watch that. I watched, just a bunch of, like, I watched the movie on Netflix, Don't Look Up, with Leonardo DiCaprio. It's kind of like so that was actually pretty good. I actually kind of like laughed a lot while I was watching that movie in terms of it's very current event-y. So it's like just the way you could be like, what the, okay. So it's good. I would, I don't know. My wife's like, I'm not watching that. I'm like, okay. Like, so, I did not watch Cobra Kai. I wanted to, but Angela didn't want me to really watch that without her. And I'm like, well, we can both watch it at the same time. She's like, no. I was like, so, yeah, just kind of did. I watched a lot of football. I watched a lot of Sports Center, a lot of Get Up, like just analysis of stuff going into like the last couple weeks of playoffs. Watching Michigan get rolled in the college football playoffs. Like there was just like a lot of that going on. I slept a lot, so not nearly as much gaming time as I thought I would get. Nor was I able to really invest deep into anything. As a default, like I said, I barely had to pay attention. I'd play like an hour or two of Destiny each day, just to kind of. It helped to put the headset on, talk to some people, sit up in bed, and play. So like that was where we were at. A couple people told me the same thing. Like, oh, I was like, I was like, oh, cool. Like I'm on quarantine. I'm gonna play games for a while, and then they just didn't. So yeah. It's like, so like that's kind of where we're at with that. I think we've recorded since Spider-Man No Way Home, or
yeah,
right?
We talked about Spider-Man.
Okay,
yeah, I think I saw it that day that we recorded.
Okay. That is our tentative plan for December's bonus episode, as I say that on January 11th. So, me catching COVID, kind of like, I was actually thinking about like, oh, well, if we brought the MacBook in here, I have another USB mic I could record on I could record in my room. And I was like, well, then we won't stream. And I was just like, it's too much stuff. So there was just too much things going on for me to mentally be able to record an episode. And then I went back to work. And then I worked 3 straight, like I was off for 8 days or whatever it was. And then I worked 3 straight days. Holy crap, my legs hurt. like I'm a pretty mobile person. I need to drop some weight. I'm not happy with where I weigh right now. I'm getting near the 240 mark and I'm not thrilled about it at all. But from like, thankfully I have like an adjustable bed. If I didn't have like an adjustable bed, like where I could actually like kind of almost like sit up or raise my feet up, I don't know what would have happened, but like 4 or 5 hours into my first shift back, like my legs felt worse than like playing basketball for the first time in like 6 months. Like it was so bad. So I would say that would probably be the worst feeling effect of post-COVID was like my legs just hurt. You go from walking 20,000 steps a day to like walking like 12. Yeah. So I know it's not the most like super entertaining thing, but that's just kind of where I'm at. I do have some stuff written down, like commitments, like I need to and I asked for some feedback on the Facebook group about what our goals are, like what they like to see us do. And I know you guys want to see us stream more, so I'm going to try to do that. Like I think the first thing that I'm probably going to try to stream again is in preparation for Horizon Forbidden West, what comes out like in a month. We watched Encanto on Disney. But is Horizon the first one? Like getting, kind of trying to get through that.
Mm-hmm.
The second one does come out very close to Destiny Witch Queen, but I don't know. Like we'll have to just kind of, maybe I'll play the first one, play Witch Queen, get bored with it in like 2 weeks until they start releasing some other stuff, and then go back and play Forbidden West. So until Destiny figures out whatever they're going to do to draw people's attention back, because it'll just be like this vicious cycle. Like, oh, it's super cool. Like, oh, now it's not. Oh, they did something else different. Like, oh, like I'm, it's there. It's my favorite T-shirt. It's always going to be there. So that's where I'm at with that. So
For me, I've been dabbling the last like couple weeks in just different games, like some games that I dropped. So like I picked up Psychonauts 2 again because it's on Game Pass. So I just had to like re-download it. Thank God for cloud saves that actually work, that I don't have to worry about. So I messed with Psychonauts a little bit. Yeah, so basically I just dabbled in a bunch of different games. So played Psychonauts 2, tried to get into Death's Door, couldn't get into it. I don't know, like everyone really loved that game. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's just one of those games that I can't get, even though I should get. I don't know how far you got in Death's Door, because you said you tried to dabble in it.
Yeah, not far at all.
So. Yeah. Try to play a little bit of Lake, which definitely should be my jam, but wasn't. Like, again, that game's perfectly fine. Nothing really wrong with it. Just didn't do anything for me. I just basically spent the last like 3 weeks just picking up games that I just missed. That I wanted to like either put more time into or just get into generally just start it and see if like, is this a game that I see myself playing and will matter in terms of like our game of the year discussion we're going to have soon. So just a ton of dabbling with that. And I did miss some games. Like I did want to get back into Kena Bridge of Spirits. I just couldn't find the time to do that. I've been watching way too much Sopranos. I'm on the final season, so going through that. Finished Hawkeye, which was okay. Like it wasn't bad.
I haven't finished it yet.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It wasn't good, but it was fine. It was okay. Watched Shang-Chi. That was pretty good. Like it was kind of in that same middling. Like it was okay. Like it wasn't the worst Marvel thing I've seen. But it isn't like the best thing I've seen. I was really expecting more of it because a lot of people that I know that saw it really fucking liked it. And
I really liked it. Yeah.
Yeah. I just walked away with it. Just like, I wasn't like upset that I watched it. It was just like, oh, it was good. But I wasn't like blown away.
But Eternals is coming to Plus soon as well.
Yeah, I think tomorrow, Wednesday, it's coming. So I'll give that a shot as well. But yeah, just a lot of dabbling. Sarah's doing New Game Plus for Final Fantasy 14, so that's why I'm watching a lot of Sopranos and just playing random stuff on the Xbox. I feel real bad as I've been playing Psychonauts 2. Like that game's so damn good, but it just was one of those games that I put a couple hours into when it first came out, and then the curse of Game Pass of just too many different things to try, and it's
always there. So.
Yeah, and I just lose it. But again, thank God the cloud saves just worked, that I don't really need to worry about it. I don't have to like, oh, let me check the cloud and download the save. I had deleted it and then I re-downloaded it and it just picked up where I left off.
It works really well between consoles too. Like just switching from the S to the X, it's just like there was something like Owen was playing and I downloaded it for him and then just like the file was just there.
Yeah, and it works console to PC too for a ton of games, to where it's just like, oh, I guess I played this on PC, and I just kept going. So I really like how that system works. But yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of like what I've been playing and watching over the last like 3 weeks. It's been a lot of dabbling. I did finish Guardians of the Galaxy, which will play into our discussion in a couple minutes. Meant to get back to Returnal because they added like a save state, sort of. So I kind of wanted to get back into that, but holy shit, that game's really hard to just get into cold. Like if you were halfway through the game.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too. Like it's almost like I was talking about Horizon. Like I don't remember how far I am in Horizon. I was playing it for a little while, but I almost feel like I kind of have to like start over again because I'm not going to remember.
Yeah, I was in the third area in Returnal, and that is a bad place to start if you haven't played it in 6 months. Like I had no idea what I was doing. But that's pretty much it for playing and watching for me.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna do a brief like game of the year, or what we thought was great in 2021. We're not gonna do some big pomp and circumstance or anything like that for these, but we're just gonna list off, similar to what we did last year, of 3 games that we really enjoyed playing. Last year that came out last year. So. In 2021. So I guess I'll go first. Like my third game is like, as I was kind of like racking my brain a little bit, it's a remake, but I mean I did thoroughly enjoy playing Skyward Sword. I got annoyed with some of the motion controls and agitated with some of that stuff, but it's still one of the best narrative stories that Zelda games have had.
Mm-hmm.
It's so like I thoroughly enjoyed that. And if you haven't had a chance to check it out, or if you hadn't played it before, it's definitely worth playing on the Switch for sure.
Yeah, my number 3 is the last game that I finished actually, which is Guardians of the Galaxy. That it's funny how when they first announced it, I was kind of excited, but I was worried about Guardians in general because the trailers looked funny, but I didn't know if like the gameplay was going to be good. The gameplay isn't great in Guardians of the Galaxy, but the writing, the story, the characters, everything you would want from the Guardians of the Galaxy is there. Some of the best dialogue between characters, some of the best character moments are in Guardians of the Galaxy. So I ended up really enjoying that game, even if it gets a little bogged down in like some of the shooting towards the last like 3 or 4 chapters, to where there's a couple moments where I'm like, oh, I kind of want the game to be over, but I don't, because I want like more character moments. I want more dialogue. I don't want more gameplay. But Guardians was a big surprise to me just because I was a little worried about how this game was going to end up working, and it ended up working out really well to where it was one of my favorite games. Because honestly, like I do make a top 10 list every year I play games, and my 5, 4, and 3 I've been shuffling for the last like week. But what it ended up just solidifying, like Guardians is my number 3, is just all the character moments, and it was just nice to play like a fun game in terms of just like it wasn't too heavy, you know, and it wasn't like too violent. Because like I enjoyed Deathloop, but Deathloop kind of lost me at the end. Halo Infinite didn't really catch me. Back 4 Blood disappointed me in terms of like I'm not playing Back 4 Blood still, when I thought I would still be playing Back 4 Blood. But Guardians of the Galaxy was just kind of what my number 2 game would be. It was just a light, fun, like popcorn game that I think I kind of needed during like the holiday break. I wasn't playing anything too heavy, too dark. I was playing a Marvel game that turned out to be pretty good.
I've had such a hard time like focusing lately the last couple of months. I think like before we recorded, Michael talked about it. Like I was cruising going into summer, like going into June and July. Like, I was cruising. I was coming off playing Spider-Man and Miles Morales, and all that stuff. So I was cruising along, and then had beaten some other games, and got through some stuff, and was balancing my time with Destiny and everything else, pretty well. And then I went on the overnights, and it just went downhill. Yeah. So my second game is another one that I haven't quite finished, but I think we're really close. And I said because it takes two. My wife and I thoroughly enjoyed playing the game. I still would. I have again enjoyed playing the game with my wife. Her and I will finish it. I still think that I want to play the game with somebody that knows what they're doing in terms of controlling a game better than her. That's all. It's fun to play and to try to teach and show what to do, but there are, like I said, there are certain times, if you ever went back and looked at a replay, where like I was actually like controlling both players at one point in time. Like I would do something and then like, okay, here, like keep them out of the way. Give me your controller. Let me do this. Okay, give me that controller back. Let me do this. Okay, switch back and forth, because we were just unable to execute it. So the possibility of playing that game with somebody that is more skilled with a controller than my wife would be intriguing.
Yeah, and the gameplay level to level is actually kind of diverse, people were saying, or...
Yeah, it is. It's very diverse. You do very many different things. Like there's like a hang gliding level. There's a throwing a nail and platforming level. There's puzzles. There's like, you have to step on this button. I have to step on this button. You have to step on this button. It's definitely a very heavily teamwork driven game, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I might have to drag
it's
my
not
Xbox
one
to the TV.
Yeah, it's not one that I don't like. There are some co-op games that you could carry your partner. This is not one where you can carry your partner.
Yeah, it's an actual co-op game. Like you have to put teamwork into it, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, everyone seemed to like it. It's one of those games that I feel like I'm going to have to try eventually. My number 2 game, which I believe will be Dave's number 1, is Ratchet & Clank: A Rift Apart. I absolutely loved Ratchet and Clank, and I'll probably let you talk more about Ratchet and Clank than me, since I think that is your favorite game of the year. But Ratchet and Clank, same thing with Guardians. It was like a great summer blockbuster type experience. Probably my favorite PS5 exclusive of all time. Yeah, yeah. So
well, you already dinged Returnal. You dinged Deathloop. There ain't no other PS5.
Yeah, yeah. But like, this game was just so much fun. Like, and it was one of those games that, like, I believe I beat it in like maybe 4 sittings. Like, it was a game that I went through relatively fast. But same thing that like Guardians had, where I just liked all the character moments. The writing was good. There was just a ton of stuff that this game did right that was just enjoyable to experience. It was a perfect summer game, is all I can say. If I remember, it came out in the summer. So, Dave, you want to take it away? Because I kind of took it.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, Ratchet and Clank is my my game, my number one game from last year. Because similar to what you said, it was nice to just be able to one and done it. There was I don't even know what my trophy list is or isn't at for that, and nor do I really care. So there was just a lot going on with that. But at the time it came out, and it was just fun to play. And it was, nice to, I think, like to your point, I think a couple sittings for me and it was done, and open and shut like a good book, like good beginning, good middle, good end, and you walk away from it and like, okay, it definitely feels like it was more than 6 months ago. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, that came out in June.
Yeah. So it's but it's good. It's if you haven't got your hands on a PS5 yet, and when you do get your hands on a PS5, it is the game that I recommend that you play.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I did go out of my way to platinum it, and I actually went out of my way to platinum Guardians of the Galaxy, which is funny that like my 3 and 2, because I don't give a shit about trophies, but yet I was just like, I want to 100% these games because I enjoyed them so damn much. But yeah, Ratchet and Clank, you have to pick it up if you have a PlayStation. If you're able to get a PS5, because we're back in that time where it's really hard to get PS5s again, you have to play Ratchet and Clank. It's just so damn fun. But that brings me to my number one game, which I feel like is totally some shit that, of course, I would make number one. It's Inscription. So Inscription is just a crazy ass card game, which I wasn't expecting to like because I do not like card games. I do not have the brain for most card games or the patience. But this one just had so many surprises. This is one of the first games in a long time that I was super excited as I was playing it to talk to other people that had played it, or as soon as I finished it, trying to find like whoever I knew that had finished it so I could talk to it about them. Because we did record like a Ratchet and Clank like spoiler cast, which was really fun. But when it came to Inscription, like I was like looking for like people that had finished the game that I knew. I was looking at the crazy ARG stuff that was happening with this game, looking up YouTube videos for lore. Like I was really into this game. And the best or worst part of this game is I can't even fully tell you why I like this game without just spoiling the shit out of it. So this game does so many cool things that I don't want to say because I want people to play it, but all the twists and turns this game takes, all the ways that it changes over time is just, it blew my mind. And it was one of those things where I wasn't expecting to get into it as much as I did. And even though the game can be difficult sometimes, it didn't bother me that I was like losing constantly in the game before I made any progress because I was just so addicted to like the card playing mechanics. Definitely recommend Inscription. I wish it was possible to play this on a console, but I don't think it will be without changing it dramatically. But Inscription is like hands down my favorite game of last year, and I'm kind of surprised that it ended up making like my favorite game of the year, especially with like Ratchet in there, because Ratchet was number one until I played Inscription, because I keep an ongoing list. It was like Ratchet, Forgotten City, Deathloop. That was my original top 3, and then I played Inscription, and it just jumped to number 1, and then I played Guardians, and that jumped to number 3.
Yeah. I generally feel bad though, just because like the holidays seem to have gotten to me, this year more than they typically have. And like, I need to like kind of give myself like a goal of, like, in my mind, like if I could average beating 1 game a month, and even then I still think that's like a stretch. So I almost feel like it'd be like 1 game every other month. And if I could beat 6 or 7 games in a year, like I think I'd feel pretty good about the way that I've been able to play lately. I do want to like try to heavily focus on completing, games to have, to diversify. Like I do, Horizon does need to be a priority so that Horizon 2 can be a priority. And then there's other things hopefully coming out this year. Like I think next week we're going to delve into the year ahead a little bit more. But there's definitely some stuff that I would love to be able to see.
Yeah, like it's definitely like if you look at my list, there's like games that I just like started or played a little bit and just didn't get a chance to finish. Metroid Dread, everyone loved. I really enjoyed it. I just didn't have time for Metroid Dread at the end of the when it came down to the end of the year.
I still want to. I haven't even. I owned it. Like I'm swicking it. It's still in shrink wrap, I think.
Oh, nice. So you put a case on it and then get it graded and you're all set.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
But then like Death's Door is up there, but now like Everybody Saves the World comes out like in a week, and it's on Game Pass and it's the Guacamelee team. I'm like, I want to play it. Like,
and like I think we talked before recording, but Kenna Bridge of Spirits, I feel really bad. I was halfway through that game and then I just dropped it. And
same. I got to a boss point and I stopped.
Yeah. And not because of the fault of the game. I just stopped. Well, it came out in August. I know why you stopped because that's when you started like overnights. But like, I had no reason to stop playing Kenna, but I just did.
I went off overnights and back on overnights, and that just jacked me.
Yeah, I think Deathloop came out shortly after that, maybe, and that's why I stopped playing Kenna. But I never went back to it. And then Metroid Dread, I played like a couple hours, and then I just stopped playing. Probably because I think Back 4 Blood came out, and then I did finish Back 4 Blood, but like there's a ton of games that I left just barely started or unplayed. So I definitely got to get better at that. I blame Game Pass for a good chunk because if I look at the games I didn't finish, Psychonauts 2 would probably be in my top 5 if I finished it.
If you could finish it, if you could focus enough on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then I'll be honest with you, like the pandemic stuff like messes with you. Like I don't know. Like catching it sucked, but then there's also like a little part of me that's like, okay, like I kind of like feel like I'm over that hill of like, okay, am I going to get it? Am I going to get it? Am I going to get it? No, I got it. Okay, now what? So now it's like there's stress with that, but then there's also relief that it's like, okay, I'm over that bump. Yeah. So I don't know, man. So it's just so much stuff going on, and I know that you guys love to, hear the stuff that we've been playing, but I also know that you guys just love to hear the commentary and the conversation around games in general, and in the long run, you don't really ultimately care what we've been playing. But, it just solidifies, like, I do truly enjoy cooperative games and having my headphones on and talking to somebody. I got so used to doing that to it, like, I miss it if I'm not doing it.
Yeah, you're a multiplayer focused person more than you're a single player.
And I hate it. Like, and there's a part of me that I love it and I hate it. Like, I start playing something and I'm like, I'm bored. Like, and it's like, I don't know, like, do I have like an ADD problem with video games right now? Like,
it's like we're gonna be stressed out when Rainbow Six comes out, because that's like a multiplayer game. But we're gonna be stressed out for different reasons. You're gonna be stressed out because you're like, oh shit, I gotta find people to play with, and I'm gonna be stressed out like, ah shit, I gotta play with people.
Yeah,
like it's definitely like the type of issue.
And that's another one we didn't really talk about in the news. Like, that's coming to Game Pass. Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like, it's like that's great. Like,
but because it's coming to Game Pass, it's now like lowest priority for me because I'm just like, it's gonna be there.
Yep. So all right. So that's pretty much it for this conversation for this week. Sorry, technical difficulties. If you've been watching on the stream, my computer completely restarted. So I apologize again for that. I feel like I'm doing that a lot right now. So I don't really think I touched the PC for about 3 weeks. So maybe this is it, the PC getting back at me.
Yeah. You missed the holiday update.
Yeah. So real quick, not quick either, but spotlight. Stuart Gilray, the owner, lead developer at Just Add Water, was a friend of Michael, did you ever talk to him on the show?
No, I think I did an episode. Yeah, I did one episode,
Okay.
but you did more episodes than I did.
Yeah, and Stuart and I had a relationship outside of podcasts. Him and me, my wife and him had very similar interest in television watching shows. I didn't. Full disclosure, I thought he was older than what he was. He was 51 years old. He passed away with complications from COVID.
Yeah.
I think that there's some other underlying issues in there that I don't know enough about to speak about, but he was a friend of mine, somebody I never got the privilege of meeting, but we did conversate regularly, mostly through like messaging. And it sucks that I hadn't really talked to him in quite a while. And then he went into the hospital and unfortunately he passed away just due to complications again from COVID. And it sucks that the world lost that great of a person first, and developer second. And he was just an awesome guy to most of the people in the community, like going back to the PS Nation days. I remember going toe to toe and back and forth with him about PS4 Pro. Like, and he's like, this guy is just like, he told like Lenny's like, this guy is just giving it to me. Like,
yeah.
You know, cause I was like, why, like what, you know, and that sparked a in what I would just call an internet friendship. And the world has lost another person too early, and it sucks. So, other than that, there's no easy way to transition away from anything like that. Any of the show, like socials that we have, community groups that we have, everything is linked in the show notes. Patreon's linked in the show notes. All that stuff is in the show notes. So please check those out. While you're there, consider leaving us a review and sharing the episode on your feed that you listened to it or you watched it. And again, going into 2022, like I've been saying for a long time, just keep moving forward, keep pushing. You guys, every single one of you is an important person to this community, and we as a community will just keep moving forward.
See you guys.